In today's bonus episode, I am speaking with some of my college friends about how they are surviving, which is a loose word, quarantine. I think it's a small representation of how many of us are trying to tackle new challenges while still being intentional about taking advantage of the time that we have right now. They are open and honest about what's working, what's not working, and trust me, we still get a lot of laughter in. Stick around. Hey there, I'm Amy Connell. Welcome to the Graced Health podcast. I'm a certified personal trainer who wants you to know your eating, movement, and body don't have to be perfect. You just need to be able to do what you are called to do. This podcast is for women who want simple and grace-filled ways to take care of themselves and enjoy a little chocolate in the process. And quite frankly, today we're not really focusing on any of that. We are finishing up the season called In the Word. This is a bonus episode that doesn't have anything to do with being in the Word, but it has everything to do with the time that we are in today. I can't wait to introduce you to some of my friends. So this is the deal. I am beyond blessed to have a lot of friends. Some of them, like Emily Baker, who you just met on the What Exactly is Grace episode, have been by my side since first grade or elementary school. Others are God-placed women who entered my life at just the right season. Some of my really cherished friends have only been part of my life for a few years, but that did not stop our friendship from developing quickly and deeply. Today, I want to introduce you to some of my friends. The women on today's show represent about half of my core group of college friends. If you follow me on social media, about once a year, you will see a picture of most of us on trips, whoever can make it. And so these women are some of that group. Collectively, our group has had countless experiences together. I cannot tell you how cherished and dear they are to me. I just can't emphasize that enough. We have been through marriages and divorces, babies and launching adults, and now caring for older parents. We have tried to support each other as best as we can during those individual seasons. I mean, for example, several years ago when Hurricane Harvey hit, they swooped in, they were caring for me. I ended up showing at one of their houses in Austin, Texas. We had to evacuate from the Houston area, and just at last minute, I was like, we got to have a place to stay. And she said, the doors are open. So these are girls who have really tried to care for each other as we are able to, as we have been in all of our own little individual storms. Right now, however, we're all in the same season and experience. COVID-19, coronavirus, however you want to call it. Our group texts among each other have shared, hey, what's working, what's not. We bring a diverse perspective politically and from our own personal experiences. We don't always agree. We've had to work through some things online and offline, but our love for each other, I thought it might be fun and, dare I say, possibly helpful for you to listen to a conversation between some of us on our own experiences and survival strategies. So I invited 4 of them on the show today for just an open conversation. We covered how we're handling the never-ending stream of hungry people in the kitchen, homeschooling while trying to manage careers. We talk a lot about games, and for those who don't like games, other alternatives for getting that quality time in, how our priorities are shifting, and how we want to remember this time. Our children range from the age of 4 to 20, so there's a good chance you're going to relate to someone's experience. Now, before we get started, I just want to be honest. I have no idea if this is an appropriate episode to do. The last thing I want to do by bringing on a group of people and talking and having fun and laughing is to neglect the seriousness of the coronavirus and its risks. I know if you are a healthcare worker or a small business owner with the weight of other people's livelihoods on your shoulders, this is a heavy, challenging time. You may be worried about your own livelihood with the loss of a job and an income. And for those of you who are going through any of that, I want you to know that my heart is with you. My heart is heavy for you, and I'm sorry. You know, you may not be in the right headspace right now to hear what games people are enjoying because you're just trying to keep yourself healthy and pay the bills while you're caring for others. Or because all of our schedules have been just turned upside down, you may just simply be trying to get through each day. So if that's you, that's okay. And I give you permission to not listen to this. I mean, you always have your own permission to do anything, but I want you to know that's okay. It's okay to not listen if this is not the right time or the season for you to be listening into a conversation like this. I do want to recognize the toll COVID-19 is taking on us emotionally and physically. This conversation is honest and it does get a little deeper as we get into it. Even though it still felt a little formal to me, I'm not used to like pointing out people and saying, well, what do you think about this? We still don't get a chance to cover some of the pressing issues on all of our hearts. So please know that just because we don't share our pain for those who have lost someone or who are sick, or our fear for the country's health and where it's going, or just general anxiety, that we are not working through them. I promise you, every single one of these women have deep hearts and deep love for people and their country. I would also be remiss if I did not mention that this group of 4 women is not all-encompassing of my college friends. Like I mentioned, we have 5 other friends who are just as integral in our text threads and friends trips when we have them. It was a very, very sad day for Amy when we had to cancel our friends trip this year. It set me off crying all day long. But I hope you can hear in this abbreviated group why I love these women so much. And I also hope it brings you value, maybe some creative ideas for your family, and of course, some grace. Let's bring them on. All right, girls, welcome to the show. I'm super glad you can be here. Thank you for taking time out of your weekend. I know that time is precious, even though our weeks are looking a little bit differently right now. I was wondering if we could go around the horn, tell everybody a little bit about yourself, kids, where you live, what you do during the day, and all of that kind of stuff. So Kristen, since you are in my top corner, I am going to let you go first.
Hi, I am Kristen Gehrig. I am a stay-at-home mom to 3 children. I have a daughter that will soon be 15, a son that's 13, and a daughter who is 8. And I spend my days, taking care of them and the household and supporting my husband in his career and volunteering and serving on boards and doing whatever I can. Exercising is one of my passions. I love to cook. That's who I am.
Yes, you do. You stay very busy, I know, with all your volunteering as well. Thank you. Tamara, you're next.
Tamara Cornell. I live in Tulsa. I have 2 boys. They are 9 and 12, 3rd and 6th graders. Very busy with homeschooling. Also, I have a small kind of a boutique fundraising firm. My husband is working intermittently as a dentist. Really just seeing emergency patients right now, but back and forth to the practice while we're keeping the house going. We also recently started a nonprofit to most notably help North Tulsa students of McLean High School. So we are super busy right now making sure that we call them our kids on the north side have the resources that they need. That's actually one of the primary focuses of our family when we're not doing homeschooling and working. So that we're just super busy, but blessed with great health and happy to be on the show.
Yes. Good to have you here. Carrie. You're up. Tell us where you are. Tamara, you said you live in Tulsa. Kristen, did you tell people where you live?
Oh, sorry. I'm in Fort Smith, Arkansas.
Right. All right, Carrie.
Hi, my name is Carrie Cohen, and I live in Alexandria, Virginia. And I've lived here for over 20 years, but originally from Oklahoma, where I got to meet all these wonderful ladies that are on the call today. I have twin girls that are 11 in the 5th grade, and then I have another daughter who is 4. And I am a working mom as well, and also do fundraising like Tamara. And as everyone has mentioned, just trying to keep the wheels on the wagon to make sure everyone's getting all their schoolwork done that they need to get done, all their Zoom activities with all their sports or their extra activities like piano and voice. And at the same time, try to keep a toddler entertained with something new every 20 minutes. Yeah.
You're probably lucky if you make it 20 minutes.
Yes.
Barbara, welcome back to the show. You're a repeat guest.
Thanks so much. I must be so popular.
You are. You are. Tell us. So, for those who did not hear the Revelation Partner episode that you and I did together, go ahead and tell everybody a little bit about yourself.
My name's Barbara Allen. All my friends call me Bob. That's an old nickname I got back in college with these ladies. And I am the director of college programming for an institute called Pointer. It's in St. Petersburg, Florida, where I live. We do a lot of continuing education and journalism around journalism. So it's pretty meta. And my job right now entails working with college students and professors, and especially right now, trying to help them get through this online learning situation. I have a 20-year-old daughter who's in college about 1,000 miles away from me, which has presented some challenges just emotionally. And then I have 2 grown stepchildren who live in Dallas, Texas, and Portland, Oregon, one of whom found out that he and his wife are expecting. So we've got all kinds of an age range here today.
Which is one reason why I wanted, I thought this would be a robust conversation, because we've kind of got a lot of different ages and stages of families. What I was going to say, Bob, is talk about being baptized by fire with your collegiate students that you're focusing on. I mean, this is something I'm sure they'll hopefully never have to deal with again. But I wanted to go ahead and jump in. Now, I don't know about you all, but I am really starting to feel a lot of appreciation and empathy for Ma on the farm from years and years ago. I feel like the eating at my house is never ending. And from like 10:30 to probably 3, there's just a continual stream of people in the kitchen. And, I've been displaced out of my office. And so I'm in the kitchen working a lot of times. And I would love to hear your approach on how you're feeding the hungry mouths of your house. Especially because we do have so many wide range of ages. Kristen, and full disclosure for all the listeners, we have all had a lot of discussions offline. So some of these I know the answer to, but I want you all to share them because I think they're worth sharing. So Kristen, I would love for you to share what your approach with feeding people is.
Feeding my people. Well, we love breakfast in our household. So I get up and I make sure that we have a nice, good, hearty, big breakfast for everybody because 1, it helps to get their brains going, and 2, it just makes everybody happy. So we do that. And then it's usually fend for yourself for lunch and snacks. I always keep plenty of fruit and other snacks on hand. So fend for yourself for lunch. And then for dinner, back when this all first started and I went to the grocery store, I sat down and I meal planned for a solid 30 to 45 meals and made sure that I had everything in my house for that many meals. And I created a menu. So I just let them pick something from the menu for dinner that night. And that's what we have. So
that's really impressive and not what I have done. And you're sticking with it. So you still have all that. I know you've always been a big meal planner and prepper, but that's still working for you.
It is. I've gone to the grocery store in the meantime and restocked on certain things and filled in and added to it and morphed it. And we still try to support our local small restaurants around here. We have several friends who have restaurants, so we make sure that we order out, a couple times a week and make sure that there's still got some income coming in. So it's good for us. It's a great break for me too. So
yeah, totally. I get that. Now, Carrie, with a 4-year-old, you're not really able to fend for yourself. And at the same time, you're trying to work and your husband's trying to work. So how are you managing particularly daytime meals with not your older girls, but also with the younger one?
So the older girls have got it down pat, even to the extent of making their own breakfast. They are self-reliant. Emma loves to cook. And so we're really blessed in that sense of they get up and they're exercising for the first time before they start their first class at 8:30, and they eat after that and they start their school day. And they come up for lunch and then they eat their lunch and they go back down and finish their homework or their schoolwork, and then they're pretty good for the rest of the day. Addie has discovered that she cannot rely on my husband and I to get her food. So she has started getting it herself. And she will pull whatever chair, she will stack pillows in front of the refrigerator to get as high as she can get. She will open every drawer. We are having to hide the food so my daughter does not weigh 600 pounds by the end of this. And she's constantly starving. So we are failing miserably in that front because we just can't stop her. I have started to say kitchen closed now after every meal, like after breakfast, kitchen's closed. Like you cannot come in. And if you want a snack, you have to come see me. But we are seriously having to hide the food in different pockets of the house besides the kitchen. Where she goes. It's actually really tough. It's a problem right now.
I know, I'm sorry to laugh. She's a resourceful one.
Yes, she is. Yes, she is.
And I'm going to let you all raise your hand and jump in, but because I have a lot of questions, we're going to kind of keep moving along. I would love to know, Tamara, what does a typical day look like for you, especially with balancing your kids and homeschooling? And I know your business is still, you guys are still really plugging along. So how are you managing all of this? And then the other thing is, I know several people, across the world have had a lot of really funny incidents with their kids, just jumping in on work calls or whatever. So I'm wondering if you have had any of those.
I have designed a sheet of, my boys are 9 and 12, so they do read, but I've designed a piece of paper I'm happy to share with you all or your listeners, but basically just tells the kids what I'm doing and then what their action item is. And that's been pretty well received, I would say, for the most part. But the one thing that did happen, I'm doing a business coaching. You're familiar with this, Amy, but through Dave Ramsey. So we meet with business leaders all across the country. And of course, when it was my time to unmute myself and speak, my sweet 9-year-old, it was his workout time. He flipped on AC/DC in the garage, which happened to be adjacent. And I couldn't leave. And it was Back in Black and it was full throttle with the basketball against the wall. And so that was my first time for those worlds to really collide. And I just pretended like I couldn't hear it. And I don't know if they could hear it or not. But my typical day, I just have I usually get up very, very early. So I've adjusted that back a little bit. So I'm not falling asleep at 8:30 p.m. anymore. But the pattern hasn't changed really. Wake up, do my reading. I try to work for a few hours before the kids get up. And I did that, before when they were in school, and I do it now because I like for everything for my first wave of communications to be out by hopefully 6:30 a.m. And that way when people are starting to open up their computers and respond, I can be checking in with the kids while they're all responding. So then my second wave of work, I'm usually, with them from about 7:45 or 8 until about 9, getting them situated and getting them what they need for the morning shift. Things go awry, but that's what we're trying to do. And then check in at lunch and then spend a little time with them. But I try, my best creative energy is usually between 4 a.m. and 1 p.m. anyway. So I try to work within those parameters during my regular life. And now it's just shifted back a little bit between, maybe 6 and 2 p.m. I try to get most of my work done and then be with the family the rest of the time because fundraising isn't awesome anyway right now. So I'm going to do the best I can within a certain amount of hours. But otherwise, you're going to give yourself a headache if you're constantly trying to do two things. So.
And I love how you take that approach of like first wave, second wave. So you allow yourself that time to take a break from what you are working on from your business, and then able to focus on your kids. So that's really cool. That's really great. Bob, what about you? What does a typical day look like for you right now? And I'm also curious, one thing with when we are home with our families, there's several buffers, and it's you and your husband. So what does that look like right now?
It's been really interesting because we went from a big 4-bedroom suburban home to living in downtown in a small, very lovely condominium in St. Petersburg, Florida. And my husband's a musician, and his schedule is he's very much a night owl. He gets his best work done in the middle of the night, 1 or 2 in the morning. And I long ago accepted that. And so we have switched to where now he's on my schedule so that I can keep my work hours. And it's a whole new world for him. He's like, oh my gosh, if I get up at 8 a.m., I get so much done in the day. So, but it's been an adjustment, but I think it's been a really good adjustment. And it's been really fun. This is probably a horrible thing to say, but it's been really nice to know that, like, okay, we raised the kids. Now it's just us. We still like each other. We still have fun. There's life after children, right?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And then you're kind of working your same typical work hours that you have been?
It's funny. My actual commute when we work in the office is about 4 blocks. So for me, this feels pretty natural to be looking out at the same kind of environment. But yes, I've been working at home, which we're fortunate enough to be able to do. And that's been interesting. And I think it's revealed some strengths and weaknesses among people who are not used to doing that. I think that's been really interesting to watch.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, let's talk about homeschooling, which has been very interesting because I think a lot of districts have approached that differently. I have to give such props to our superintendent. He came out about 2 weeks ago and he was like, okay, this is the deal. We care about your emotional needs more than we care about your academic right now. We're doing school. You get met expectations, did not meet expectations, and don't freak out. And which just lifted so much off. But I know a lot of other districts aren't doing that. And it is a whip. It's a whip. And especially if you're trying to work in between. So I would, Kristen, how are you? You've got a decent age range with your 3 kids. What are you doing about homeschooling? I mean, has it been okay? Is it kicking your butt? Tell us about that.
Early on, it was really stressful. Our schools are still grading, but they are being given grace in that if they don't turn in an assignment at the scheduled time, they can still turn it in later. I mean, without any penalty. When they have problems, they come to me, and I thank God every day that my sister is a high school math teacher and I can use her as a resource, and we will FaceTime her when I can't figure out the answers to my children's math problems. I've been pretty good so far, but there have been a few times where I'm just like, call Aunt Judy.
For sure. What about Tamara or Carrie? What about you guys? How's homeschool working for you? And are you having to do? I mean, like tech support. I feel like at the high school level or late middle school, high school, like it's really nice because that's not something I have to mess with. And that was my least favorite job when they were in late elementary school was tech support. So, what does homeschool look like for either one of you guys?
Well, I just had to sit my kids down and say, this is not a homeschooling situation. I'm like a really bad substitute. So if you can just drop your expectations, like the keyboarding teachers emailing, Henry's not doing his keyboarding work. I said, bring it over here. Give it to me. We will just do that work for you. And, I helped him with a little bit of that. Like you cannot have the same expectations on everything. We can focus, we can control our controllables, but people are driving themselves nuts right now. And believe me, I watched a video with my 12-year-old the other day, and I wrote down the words, and I said, did Dr. McGuire introduce 4 new concepts on creative technology in this video? And he said, yes. I said, you'd not heard Padlet, Edpuzzle, all HyperDoc before today? He said, no. So these things are happening so fast. It's stressful for us, and it's stressful for the kids. So you have to lower your expectations and just readjusting the kids a little bit and making sure the core curriculum is staying together, I think, and forgetting some of the elective stuff has been helpful for us.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's one thing that it's taken some of us a while to get there, but just that general lowering of expectations. I mean, it is just not going to look the same now that it did 2 months ago. So I totally get that. Carrie, how's it going with your girls?
It's actually going well. It's more academics are doing fine. They know what they need to do to get it done. You can tell when they really need the teacher and she's not there. You can tell the spots where they're so used to having her introduce a new subject, like Tamara just said, and then explain why this is new and how it fits into what they just learned.
Mm-hmm.
And you can feel that disconnect a little bit. But the girls get 20 minutes every week with their teacher one-on-one when they write down questions that they don't understand. And that's been really helpful for them because they can then go through their list. They write it down throughout the week of what they don't understand, and she'll quickly work through them and help them figure it out. So that helps. What we have discovered is more of the emotional side of having them together and working, and that they need their time apart, which is interesting. There are certain days they just do not gel. They do not mash up. So one child goes upstairs and the other child stays in the basement to do their homework or their schoolwork. So we're having to learn that maybe 3 days a week they're off separately doing their work, and 2 days a week they're together. So we're having to emotionally figure out how to keep the two of them loving each other through all of this, not only being together in the house, but also having to do their schoolwork together. So that's been actually more challenging for us than the homework or the schoolwork.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think there have been a lot of elements of understanding our own and our family's own kind of emotional intelligence and where they're figuring out where we need things and where the gaps are. And I know I've been intentional about telling me people like, I need a hug, but that the bottom layer of that is I want to make sure that they're getting that because they don't know necessarily to ask it, or they're teen boys and they think they're too good to ask for it. Bob, how's homeschooling going for you?
Well, it's funny. I feel like I'm more involved with my college age student than I ever was before because she really wants more personalized feedback. So she has a major that's similar to what I studied, and she calls me quite a bit and says, what do you think about this? I don't know this particular rule. Can you help me figure it out? That's been kind of fun. It's given me more of a peek behind the curtain into what's going on in her education.
Yeah, I didn't know that. That is really cool. That's a fun way to bond too, when you're so far apart.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's talk about fun things, games. So I don't know about you guys, but we have really been trying to up our family time and our intentional time, and we do that with games. My kids are going to be really well set when they go to college because we play a lot of poker. So, great parenting there. We learned.
Amy, I think that's fine. I taught all my nieces to count by playing blackjack with them.
Yeah, that's right.
And how to negotiate a little bit.
Yeah, there you go. Hey, these are good life skills. But anyway, have you guys found any games that your family actually really likes? Kristen, what about you?
We are a big game family. Although I have to say, Ryan does not love Phase 10. He boycotted. I know. He boycotted the other night. So we play a lot of Rummy Cube.
I love Rummy Cube.
Yes, me too. One of his coworkers gave him this big Wahoo board. Have you ever heard of Wahoo?
Mm-mm.
It's kind of like Trouble. It's like kind of like the adult version of Trouble, but you actually roll the dice instead of hitting the little thing in the middle, and you get to send people back to their home. And there's a couple of new rules, but it's a lot like that. It can get kind of brutal. And you play teams, so you play with the person opposite you. Anyways, we play that. It's sitting on our back porch. So when we're out on the back porch, we tend to strike up a game of that. Skip-Bo. I mean, a lot of your basic games I've been teaching, and I taught my 8-year-old Gin Rummy recently, so that was fun.
Yeah.
That's a big break, like especially with my 8-year-old and my middle child, when they're having a moment in their schoolwork and they need a break, especially when the weather's crummy, we tend to go to a game. And we play a game, we get our mind off of school, and then we'll go back. My son has some ADD issues, and I've not been giving him his medicine just because he's struggling to put on weight. And when he takes his medicine, it's a lot harder. So I found that I can avoid the medication if we do school in spurts. So he'll work a little bit and we'll play a game, and he'll work a little bit and he'll go outside. And so anyways.
That's a great idea to do a little, I always think of games kind of at night after dinner or whatever. Tam, what about you guys? Have you done, I know you do not like Rummy Cube. Okay. This is a really unfair question to ask of you. I say it and then I'm like, oh, I forget she don't like games.
I don't like games. I haven't found one yet that I like, but maybe I should keep looking. But one thing we have incorporated every day, Henry and I watch the sunset together. That's our time to sit and talk. And he gave up, I guess, anything carbonated or candy for Lent. So the last few days he's been like, you want to have a Coke? I'll have a Coke while you have your tea. So we'll sit outside, watch the sunset together. So that's been our thing. And then the thing I've been doing with Ben every day for 30 minutes is reading an audiobook. So on a sunny day, we just have a picnic at lunchtime. And it's just, I know it's easier with 2 kids rather than 3 to have the one-on-one time, but I've been trying to do that with each of them. And I've been pretty successful almost every day. So that's been super fun.
That's a really sweet time. A picnic with listening to an audio. I love both of those. I love watching the sunset.
Yeah.
Bob, what about you guys? Do you play any games?
We do. We play a ton of games. We're both pretty competitive, so we kind of have to tread carefully because we don't want the one person upsetting the other person to set the mood for too long. Mm-hmm. So I like to play games when we're close to bedtime. We don't want to start a Sunday morning with the game. I mean, I'm being kind of facetious. I was thinking about, Tamara, what you said about going out and watching the sunset. That's a great idea. Where we live, we're fortunate enough to have a pretty engaged community. And we were sitting in our living room not too long ago, and we heard this kind of like a ruckus outside. And we went outside, and people were just standing on their balconies because we live in a downtown area where there's a lot of high rises. And people were just cheering. And I was like, is there a parade? Did we miss something? And in our community, every night at 8:00, people go outside and cheer for healthcare workers. And it's pretty robust, and you can hear it for blocks, and it's really taken off. And so when you go into downtown St. Pete at 8:00 every night, there's a good minute of really solid cheering. Last night, there were people playing guitars, and my husband always plays a cowbell. So I think adding a little bit of structure like that, having something that you look forward to every day is actually pretty helpful for us. But as far as games go, my friend Amy introduced me to bananagrams, and I keep beating my husband at that, and it's very frustrating to him. He really wants to beat me at bananagrams.
That's so unfair to him. That's so unfair to him.
Hey, he has a journalism background too. He's not bereft of a good vocabulary. He can hold his own.
He's not bereft of a good vocabulary, she says. I don't know that I would have known what bereft means had you not used it in a sentence. Oh, goodness. All right. So, Carrie, you have a little bit wider range of kids. Is there anything that your family's living?
So it's interesting because we do have the range is split. So it's mostly the twins who really want to play a game every night. So that's our main focus. We try to make that happen. So without a doubt, Addie's watching a TV show, right? So we can get through a game. So we can spend some time with the twins. And we do a lot of Catan at our house. I don't know if
what that is. No, I've never heard of that.
It's a strategy of a board, and you have rock and you have brick, and you have to purchase all these resources to build a road and to build a town and to build.
Are you talking about Settlers of Catan? Mm-hmm. You're playing that with your 11-year-olds?
Mm-hmm.
They must be the smartest kids ever.
The kicker is one of them has beaten Aaron 3 times in a row, and Aaron he lost it. He 100% lost it the last time. So I don't know if we'll be playing that anytime too soon. But we do a lot of bananagrams. We do a lot of Ticket to Ride. We play that. There's a lot of Monopoly, which I do not
Oh,
like.
God bless. I'm sorry.
There's
I
a lot of
hate
Life,
Monopoly.
which I do not like. And we do Phase 10. That's my game. And I'm trying to think what else. The girls have, Exploding Kittens. So
Never
that
heard of that
has,
one.
yeah, that's the interesting one. So the girls are very much into games. So that's the one thing we always try to look forward to. If the day goes well and we don't have any upsets, then we always have time to play a game.
I'm sitting here looking at Tamara's face, and you are so not interested in this. Not that you're not interested. You're rolling your. You're like, no.
No, I'm thinking about the exploding kittens at my house, and I'm like, that game doesn't even make sense to me. But yes, there's that. It's happening here. I'm just not playing it.
That's okay. No, that's good. That's good. Okay, I want to know what, when we walked into this, everybody kind of started quarantining at a little bit different time. At my house, everybody kind of feels like March 11th was the time that, like, that's when the NBA was canceled, and that's when Tom Hanks had, it was like there were several things all on that day. So March 11th is kind of like the day that everybody thinks of. And, I don't know about you, but I walk in with expectations like, okay, we're going to do this and we're going to do that. And then there are times that you're like, and now I don't care how late my kids stay up as long as they're getting their stuff done. And we're kind of releasing those expectations. So I'm wondering if anyone has anything that, like, I was going to start this way and now I'm not. Carrie, what about you?
So I will say that we were pretty lax with the girls of letting them stay up, like what you just said, as long as they get their work done. But I do feel like because they were staying up too late and then having to still get up, they have to be on a Zoom call every morning at 8:30 with their class.
Okay.
I think that's where all of the high emotions started to run in because they weren't getting their sleep. So we are back to the have to be in bed by 9. Lights out. If you want to read 30 minutes before, you better get it done. But you're in bed 9 o'clock and you're done.
And that seems to be working well for you guys now. Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. My one of my kids has to be on at 9, and then my other one is like, just get your stuff done when you can get it done. So they definitely have to approach it a little bit differently.
Yeah.
What about anyone else?
We struggled. Alyssa was staying up. Our oldest was staying up until 2 o'clock on a pretty regular basis. So we've dialed that back, and we're not pushing the issue too much, just in bed by midnight. I think that's pretty reasonable. Her first call's not till 10, so she still gets plenty of sleep. But yeah, she's our night owl, always has been.
Yeah.
So
that midnight is completely fair. Nothing good ever comes down after midnight.
As our parents would say.
Which we are parents now. Which doesn't always feel that way. Oh, goodness. All right, let's talk about, I can't do an episode without talking about movement. Bob, you talked about downtown St. Petersburg, and I have seen pictures of kind of, I don't know what it is. If it's like an official park system or trail system. I know you have in the past utilized that a lot. Are you still going there? Are you, are you enjoying that? Tell me about that.
You're not going to be happy with me about this, Amy, unless
there's no shame, no judgment, girl. You know that.
I'm super fortunate. I got this great job, and I was able to find housing in a place that is literally 2 blocks away from Tampa Bay, and people really utilize the area. It's all built up. There's a yacht basin. There's a public marina. Then that stretches into this beautiful old hotel that's been there forever. And then that stretches into parks. So when I leave my front door, I can walk for 2.5 miles waterfront, and it is always packed with people. And when you go out there at night, you can see dolphins coming up against the seawall. You see a super diverse group of people. You see tourists, children, old people, young people, and it's really, really nice. After this started happening, and I'm religious, I try to go out there every night. I'm an evening exerciser. I really love kind of like letting the day's events sort of like, shake them off and then come home and fix dinner. And for the last month, the last time I was out there, actually, I think I was sending you a video message, Amy, and some people just kept getting so close to me, and there's just sort of tunnel vision into this. Like, the population is so dense down here that if I was going to be a better exerciser, I would really need to get in my car and go somewhere else. Just leaving my apartment, I feel like I'm constantly seeing dog walkers and people, and it's just, quite honestly, it freaked me out really bad. The idea of being 1,000 miles and 2,000 miles away from my kids and getting sick and not being able to correspond with them really freaked me out. And so I haven't been moving much. We have been trying to do some yoga at home. We've been trying to do some little, push-ups and planking and stuff like that. But I wouldn't say we've been religious about it. But this is the first time in a really long time that I haven't consistently gotten out and got some cardio. And I do miss it, but I also feel like I'll know when it's time to bring it back.
Yeah. Well, no, that makes a lot of sense. And it was congested, or is congested. And obviously that's why we're home, right? Is to social distance and to not be putting ourselves in situations where we can contract a virus. So no, yeah, that all makes sense.
I think people were not doing it intentionally, but when you're out on a long run or a bike ride, I think you get in the zone and you're not really focused on staying away from people. And so my husband is we're both pretty concerned about this virus. And so we're trying really hard to minimize our contact as much as we can. So part of that is just for his comfort as well.
Yeah. No, I totally get that. Tamara, what about you?
Two different things. I'll take the kids first, just touch on this really quickly. One of my younger son's naturally very active and competitive. My older son takes a little more prodding. So we just he's got a Garmin, a fitness watch. So we said every 15 miles that you run, you can order food. And so we've just made it incentivized. We've just incentivized him to do that. And now the younger one's cheering him on. Come on, Henry, get the 15 miles so we can order what we want. So that's how I've handled that for the kids, and kind of curtails them wanting to order food all the time too. But like every 2 to 3 days, they're on me. They're like, he's hit the 15 miles. And then for me, Amy, you know this, I'm just so simple. I'm not really a fitness person. I like to be in shape, but every day I just tell myself, you can choose. You can run, walk 5 miles, or you can do a bar class. And then the next day, and I was rotating them really well, like an online bar class, then run, walk, online bar class. That's what I typically do when the schedules are more normal. But every day I just choose one or the other, which feels better today. And I just choose it and I do it.
Now, do you do that at 3:00 in the morning?
Before the 4 a.m. wake-up call.
I mean, I used to do it at 5:30, but now it's, like a little later than that. I used to work out every day at 5:30, but I don't get up at 4 right now. So,
well, and Tamara, one thing I think you are really good about is taking little bitty pockets of time and getting outside and walking. So I know you and I have had calls, just while you're walking back behind your house with that sidewalk. And I've seen you taking calls that way. So that's one thing I really admire about you, is just your ability to just take those little snippets of time and make them work for you from a movement perspective, rather than thinking, well, these are the only times of, that I'm going to be working out in a day.
That's true too. I don't always get my 5 miles in all at once.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Kristen, I've been seeing you on my Facebook Live classes, but I know that you have been really serving the people who live around you. Can you share a little bit about that? Because I think it's really cool.
Well, back before we moved to Fort Smith, we lived in South Oklahoma City, and I learned how to got my certifications and became a fitness instructor and taught several different types of classes. So I've used that knowledge, and I live in a cul-de-sac and there's only 5 homes, but we're on larger lots. So we have lots of room to spread out, and there's lots of teenagers and us 5 moms. And so we get together on a regular basis, and I do your classes in the mornings, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, typically. But then we'll also get together and do a yoga class. And then we also have a friend that teaches pound. And so she has come over and done some pound classes. Yeah, it's been really fun. I've put together a couple different HIIT classes that we've done. So just a good way to socially distance, be outside, get some fresh air. We've had some gorgeous days and some not so gorgeous days. So on the pretty ones, we try to get out and at least have a little bit of socialization, but in a safe manner. It's the first time I've really, truly felt blessed to live in a smaller community like Fort Smith, because I never have been concerned about the, dense population issues that the coronavirus brings. So, but it's been fun. I also get out and walk. We have plenty of room to walk the neighborhoods around here. So sometimes I've started listening to podcasts again when I need to get away from my family for just a little break. I love them dearly, but sometimes need to get out of the house for a scenery change. So I'll throw my headphones
absolutely.
in and go for a stroll. So that's been nice too.
Fresh air. You just
Yes.
can't beat it. You can't beat it. Carrie, what about you? I know you've got a 3-story house, so you're also probably going up and down and up and down and up and down all day long.
I count stairs as my exercise. That's pretty much what I do. It's interesting going into this. You could take it as of, oh no, this is going to be horrible. How am I going to get through this with my kids? And I chose to take the opposite of like, okay, this is going to be great. I'm not in a commute for 45 minutes back and forth every day, which is actually amazing. And I get to spend more time with my kids, which has been also equally amazing. But I had high hopes, like I was going to redo my closet and I'm going to start exercising again. And you had all these things that in my head, I was like, I can knock all these out. This is the perfect opportunity to do it. But I have discovered that for me, for some reason, working from home with the 3 kids is more challenging than I'd ever thought would happen, because my husband's working too. And actually this point in time for his business is extremely busy, and he starts his day 8:30 on conference calls and doesn't end till 5. So there is actually not any help. There's a little bit of help with 30 minutes here, 30 minutes there, but it's been a juggling act for me. And I can't seem to find a way to make a schedule like I want to make it, which is very disappointing. And hopefully it might get better these next couple of weeks when my work, I don't want to say slows down, but people's anxieties come down and realize this is the new normal. And I'm not getting called every 30 minutes. So, well, what about this? And what do you think we can do here? And my answer is still the same, is you can't do anything. Like that has not changed since yesterday. So, exercising was high on my list. It's not there yet, but every week's a new week. Maybe Monday morning I'll wake up with my girls and I'll do yoga with them or Pilates. You never know.
Well, and actually, that's something that I think is worth mentioning, that, when we were all like, okay, we're home and now we have time to do all the things that we want to do. I don't know about you guys, but I feel like my priorities and my attention has shifted a little bit. And so I could be super productive, but then I'm not going to be able to enjoy those little moments with my kids when they come. And I'll be working at the table, typing away. And then they come in and I try and either like put the laptop down or I really engage them. And so I am choosing, and Carrie, I bet you could say the same thing. You're choosing to do what you can and be investing in the time that you have with your children and your husband while you're all together, rather than prioritizing being productive.
It's true. 100%.
Yeah. So I think, it's kind of taken me a little bit of time, but I'm like, okay, it doesn't all have to get done. I still have a light in my closet that, no kidding, has been burned out for 2 months. You would think I would have time to replace that. And Kristen's showing one of her light bulbs that are out too. It's just, who cares? Who cares?
It's crazy because all of a sudden I have this built up anxiety of these things that I've wanted to get done. A month and a week have gone by and I've crossed one thing off my list, and I fixed my couch because Addie got vitamin stains all over it. That's it. But then I thought to myself, I can either fix things off my list or play more games with my children who really are having a good time with that. At some point in time, this all goes away and we're back to what we're doing.
I like to play a game with myself where I talk to myself 5 years from now. So 5 years from now, when I'm 34, just kidding. 5 years from now, I want to say to myself, what did you do at this time? I mean, it is unusual, right? And I think that we can appreciate other people's stress now maybe a little bit more because we're seeing it, You know, in the past, you're in an office or you're away from your children, they're in school, and I think some of us fall into that trap of feeling like, oh, we work really hard and maybe we're underappreciated by our families in a lot of ways. And I think everybody feels that way, men and women, and probably kids feel like my parents don't necessarily understand me. So I think there's an opportunity now where we're all together to sort of understand stress. And like, for me, it's manifested itself in actually with a little more patience, which has surprised me. I thought that I might really struggle under not being able to leave the house and, having really different habits from people. But I think about 5 years from now, when we look back at this time, are we going to have regretted those games? Are we going to wish that we had taken the opportunity to work harder? I think that we need to embrace the fact that, guess what? Closets are always going to be messy, and that's why we don't have parties in closets.
Yeah. Amen, sister. That's so true. That's so true. So to that end, I would love to hear, this is for all of you, because sometimes we get caught up in all the things that we're not doing. Well, our closets are messy, our light bulbs need changing, all of the things, right? So, but where's one area, like, where are you nailing it? What's working well for you right now? Tamara, you're up.
Okay. I'm just going to sound really weird. Like, I think I'm the opposite of most people. Like, I love when things get a little bit hard. Like, it feels like I'm growing and I love it. And now I'm feeling like I don't want to go back to normal, and it's going to be soon. And I'm going to have to be all the places. And then I'm going to have to tell people no, because I like being home with my family. And I feel this is not answering your question at all. It's just something I've been ruminating on. I feel extreme fear about going back to that, because so with that, where I'm nailing it is perspective. I mean, if you are doing this quarantine with full cupboards and you're a healthy family, you have no adversity whatsoever. The school and the Zoom call, I mean, it's so much, but their perspective is where I think I'm nailing it. And I know you guys will laugh, because I always tell my kids that's not adversity. That's just a story, or that's an emotional reaction. That's not adversity. So I think that's maybe where we're nailing it. And we're making bags at our house, and we're going to, taking them where they need to go in North Tulsa, and just really staying focused on the purpose and the perspective. So I'll leave it at that. That's where I feel like we're doing a decent job.
Well, I think that's great. And it's also something that you can continue on. Having perspective in all situations is always helpful. For sure. Bob, what about you?
I mean, Tamara, I really appreciate what you're saying, because I think for me, and going back to this thing where I feel like I have found patience that I didn't know that I had, I feel like I have had an opportunity to try. I don't know what I'm saying. You're going to have to cut this part, Amy. I totally lost my train of thought.
I hate editing. We're not going to edit this out. Kristen, you go. Bob, you can come back.
Oh, dear. I think movement is probably the best thing for us. Just getting out as a family. We've gone kayaking, we've gone hiking, we've gone, Ryan and the kids have built a fort over the past few weeks in his spare time that he really doesn't have a whole lot of. But we've ridden bikes. I've loved having that time with my kids. We're getting out, we're moving, we're exercising a lot more, and it's something that I love to do. But I'm not at all missing the chaos. Mm-mm. I don't miss the chaos. I don't miss the spending 4 hours a day shuttling kids from activity to activity in school and home, and trying to squeeze in everything that has to be done. I don't miss that at all. And I haven't talked to a single person who has missed it. So I think Tamara's point on perspective, it's really, I think that some of us will look back at this and maybe readjust our lives a little bit, trying to cut out a little bit of that chaos if we can. I mean, I know it's really hard, especially when you have multiple kids. It's hard to cut out some of that, but yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree. And it's funny, on one of the first online sermons that our church had, our pastor said, are you going to treat this as a speed bump or a diversion? And that has really stuck with me, because he was like, a speed bump, we're all having to slow down. And then are you just going to pick back up and go? Or is it going to be a diversion where you're actually going to intentionally do some things different when you're when we get back to normal. So yeah, I think that that's where a lot of people are right now, is like, how do I hold on to the things that I'm really liking? And I mean, when you said the chaos, I don't miss the chaos. Every single one of you started shaking your head like, nope, I don't either. And figuring that out. Bob, I know you had a comment. I want to let you jump in. Sorry, I jumped in on top of you.
No, that's fine. One of the other things I don't miss besides the chaos, and I just wondered if you guys feel the same way. I feel like my daughter's 20. She has not worn any makeup since March 15th. And I personally have felt like I have seen that part of myself. I think women have a really nasty tendency to compare themselves to each other, and not being in the office and seeing my coworkers sort of bring their dress down. I don't know if you guys have noticed this. We're not all dressed to the nines with all of our accessories. It's kind of made me feel better, like that natural tendency to compare yourself to other women has really ratcheted down for me. And I see other people and I'm like, I feel like my competitive nature with women has kind of reduced some. And when I see my daughter not wearing makeup, I like get all excited. I'm like, maybe this will be the end of social media influencers and we'll stop judging everything that we do based on what we see online. So that was kind of one of my takeaways. I'll be curious to see how that works out.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I hadn't thought about that, but it's true. I mean, we all are having our grays and we're all, I mean, yeah, the self-care in that regard has been forced to go down a little bit. Carrie, any thoughts?
In our world, my husband and I we never really had family dinner because he was at an event or I was at an event. And the only really times that we had to spend dinner together were on the weekends. And that was even probably just Friday night was the only night that we had it. And it was late because the girls had soccer till 8:30 at night. So I would say family time for us for dinner has been amazing. For the first time ever, we are meal prepping and we know what we're going to have. And it's wonderful. My husband's an amazing cook. So he's taken over as chef and I just help cut and prepare. So that in itself has been really lovely. The girls are excited to sit down and eat. They set the table, they clear the table. I will say this, chores have been amazing. The kids have time to learn how to clean a toilet. They have learned how to use the vacuum properly and how to clean their bathroom. So that's been another positive of all of this. But it's the spending time. It's the spending time together. I will say, if life ever gets back to somewhat normal, that ends for us, and that's sad. And instead of being a speed bump, Amy, like you said, be a diversion of when Aaron and I have to really sit down and plan our weeks in advance or months of like, okay, let's not schedule Wednesdays for dinners. And so he's got to say no, and I've got to make sure I have someone covering my event. So I think that's where the diversion on our side comes into play of let's at least try to sit down twice a week, because 3 times a week is just not going to happen. But maybe twice a week we have family dinner and we're sitting down. So that's kind of where I think we can continue to grow from this experience or take it forward to this experience is to bring it into the new world. And who knows, we may not have events anymore. So
yeah, that'll be interesting to see what happens with that. But, I think the intentionality is going to have to really come into play with all of us and what we're liking and what we're, I have to say my teenage son, my 16-year-old typically is gone like Friday night, Saturday night. I mean, he's always doing something and I've loved having him home, and I'm waiting for the time when I can say, how about maybe every other weekend you can stay home one time? All right, we're going to end on this one question. And I could probably, I'm just going to let you guys answer it. What do you want to remember out of this time? Either something you've done, a change you've made, an experience. Is there anything in particular that you would really love to just say, this is my memory of COVID-19? Tamara?
I would say that you're in charge of your own resets, and not everything is cumulative through this experience. There are natural reset points for us when we, are gifted with a little unexpected time or whatever, but you can also go out and seek those. We're all going to hit walls where we're overstimulated being at home with our families, but whether that's a run or your alone time or a bath or whatever it is, find your resets, because it doesn't have to be just cumulative throughout. You just have to be more intentional with finding them, and they exist. They're there for, and you just have to be proactive in finding them, whether it's during quarantine or after, but not allowing things to build and just being in control of your own ability to reset and regroup.
That is wonderful wisdom. That's really fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. Carrie, what do you want to remember?
Exactly what Tamara just said. It was beautiful. No, I guess it would be the family time. I'm watching the girls grow up more each and every single day, where I would not see that past or pre-quarantine. I wouldn't have seen that. So I just watched one of my twins get taller than me, and I saw it happen in the past month. Like it happened. And just they're funny.
Yeah.
Really, really funny individuals, all three of them. And I've really enjoyed that time. And I think it will last. I think all this is going to change us as a society. And I think we're not the only ones experiencing this. And hopefully if we all come together, we can make that change. Some of the changes stay.
Yeah. Yeah. I totally agree. Kristen, what do you want to remember?
Oh, I think Tamara said it beautifully. I think more than anything, just that we've all been able to take this time to slow down a little bit. I mean, I know that it's easier for me to say because I don't have to also have my professional career ongoing while I'm doing this, but my husband does. He's worked a lot of hours through this.
Yeah, he's in the healthcare industry, so he's been on high intensity for sure.
Right. So, but we've still had a lot of really good family time. And like Carrie said, our nightly dinners aren't always interrupted by his work or mine, but they've been interrupted by our kids' activities. And for once, we don't have those kids' activities. So we can sit down and have conversations and have movie nights. And I mean, we've just been able to do a lot more as a family. And we are pretty lucky in our little enclave that we live in, because everyone's been quarantined now for 4 weeks, that we've been able to have a lot of fun time with neighbors and friends, socially distanced, of course. But we've gotten to hang out a lot together, and we don't normally get to do that because we're all going different directions. So we embrace that. This is actually hearkening back to a year ago when we had the flood and we were stuck as a little street. So this is our second year now to do this in a way. But we still are embracing that time and having creating lots of good memories.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that for you. And I love the community that you guys are doing in your little cul-de-sac. I have to say I'm a little jealous of that. Bob, what do you want to remember about this time?
Well, I have lots of time to contemplate because I don't have any children to worry about feeding and watching them go through school. For me, it has been an enormous amount of alone time with myself and my husband. And I think, like I was talking about the closets, I thought if I had been at home in my house, kind of by myself with just one other person to worry about for a month, and I still haven't unpacked that one box of stuff from college that I really need to sort through and figure out if I want to keep it or not, that's going to be somebody else's problem. When I'm dead, somebody can look through that box and decide what they want to keep. That's a fine point of self-acceptance for me has been really big through this. Like, this is who I am and this is what I'm going to be. I'm going to focus on the best qualities of myself that have always existed. If I can be patient and kind, let's double down on that. Maybe I'm a little messy. Okay, that's who I am. This has proved to me that I am not going to change. And I'm much better off accepting that and moving on and trying to focus on other positive qualities I can bring and just being more self-accepting. And also travel. I miss everybody. And I think in the future, I will really cherish what seemed like, sometimes kind of like, oh, it's a pain in the butt. I got to get back to Oklahoma. I got to see my folks. Got to work on a trip to see my daughter. Got to make sure I have lunch with Shayna while I'm in Stillwater. Oh, that's all out the window. That's all just such a blessing now to think about.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. It's, I miss hugging people. Like I really miss hugging people and seeing people. I can't wait till we're all together again. Oh my gosh.
I think we're going to hug people more and shake hands less.
Oh,
Probably.
maybe so. Maybe so. Along the lines of what you were just talking about too, I saw someone wrote somewhere, they said, if all of the things that I've been holding on to in emergency, if I don't use them during this time, then I don't need them. I was like, that is truth. Like, I do not need to hold on to things in case of an emergency because this is an emergency. And if I don't use them, then need to I need to get them out of my house.
And they're
Okay,
probably
you guys.
deeply buried anyway in a closet somewhere that you can't reach.
Yeah, I know. I know. Hey, you guys, thank you so much. I really wish we could have gotten all of our little group together, but I really thank you for your time. I think a lot of us, I thank you for your honesty because I think it's good for people to hear, yeah, some things are going well and some things I'm, not doing great at, and that's okay. And I just appreciate your time with me today. So thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah.
Thank you, Amy.
All right. I'm going to sign up for us all, and we will see y'all next time. I have to tell you, we probably stayed online for another half hour after recording this. Just being able to see everyone's faces and laugh. I mean, the laughter was so good for my soul. I love the game Bob plays with herself, the 5 years from now. Isn't that just a great way to make a decision? I mean, that's just fantastic perspective. Though, if I was completely forthcoming, I'd say I just spent an hour editing and prepping this episode while my kids were outside with me, and I didn't engage them much. So maybe I just need to listen to that part again. 5 years from now, will I be glad I did that? I'll try and make up for it somewhere else. Tamara's advice about being in charge of our own resets is brilliant. And I think we can take those resets in small daily ways and also larger ways on how we're going to reset in the long term. As our conversation progressed, I noticed a theme of everyone sharing acceptance in what they're doing well, which is sometimes hard to identify, and where they aren't perfect. And I really appreciated that about everyone, that they were just willing to be honest about that. So what's the one simple thing I want you to remember? That you are doing something well. I may not know what that is, but I'd bet money on it. And I'd bet you feel inadequate in some way. Both are fine. Both are normal right now. So I want you to identify where you need some grace and extend that to yourself. We all still have to be giving ourselves grace in, what Brene Brown calls an FFT. And I will go let you listen to that episode on hers. I think it's episode 1 of her latest podcast called Unlucking Less. Anyway, thank you so much for joining us today. I hope you had fun with it. I hope you see how much these women bring value and laughter and joy and perspective into my life. I also want to invite you to join us on the Graced Health Podcast group on Facebook. This is where we often get into the conversations a little bit more. Some of the girls on the show today are in the group as well. We've been doing some challenges, which has been fun and totally manageable and doable. Is that the right word? Doable. Right now we're focusing on gratitude, which Tamara suggested. I will say that. And I do my goofs and grace. So I will share some of the things that I maybe messed up on or want to clarify or just dig into a little bit more on a Facebook Live on Wednesday mornings. So make sure you join us over there. It's a lot of fun. It's free. And the community is fantastic. Make sure you subscribe to the show wherever you listen to podcasts. I'm going to start telling you now and prepping you now that when summer comes, I'll still be producing content, but it's going to be a little bit different, and there will not be show notes that are emailed out to those who receive it. You can also receive those at gracedhealth.com/podcast. But this subscription is really going to be your own reminder to get the content over the summer when I am taking a little break. Okay, that is it for today. Go out there and have a great day.